Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Now today we're going to be paying our respects to our elders with this classic BMW. And what we're looking at right now is a 1976 BMW 2002. And before we get into the video, I do want to give a huge shout out to one of my good friends, Nick, for letting me drive his car today. I think he's going to actually be putting this up for sale pretty soon, which is very unfortunate. But I'm just really gracious for the opportunity to be able to drive this today. So just to kind of give a little bit of a backstory behind this car, this is a mostly original car, even down to the paint and the exterior bits and everything like that. And it's a really rare car nowadays to find, and not a lot of people understand the significance of this car in general. If it wasn't for the 2002, we wouldn't have the whole entire 3 Series lineage that really paved the way for the future of BMW. And before the 3 Series, this was the 2-door coupe that you would get that could take you from point A to point B, that is extremely fun to drive, and it has a lot of the characteristics that now that we see in the later generations that come down the road with the 320i, and then later on into the later generations of the 3 Series. So as you can see, since this is a USDM car, you may be wondering why the front bumpers are actually sticking out a little bit more than usual. And I think this has to do with safety regulations in the US. So they had to have these bumpers that protrude out a little bit more. So if you ever see a European spec 2002, the first thing you'll notice is the bumpers are a lot slimmer. But besides that, the car is in really good shape. The body is very straight, and it's been well kept and maintained for its age. I mean, this is coming up on being almost 50 years old, so you do have to give it a little bit of leniency on the condition for sure, but it looks really great, and it's such a boxy and cute little car. And what I love most about it is the front end, where it just has the 2 little kidneys in the front. And for those that don't know, these are called the kidneys. It's a very iconic thing, especially with the older BMWs. And it just has these 2 tiny little round headlights. So it really is cool just to see something like this for the very first time, and just to be able to enjoy where BMW really came from. So as we hop into the car, even just opening the door, it has like a really satisfying click. I want to do that one more time just so you guys can experience this with me. Just I don't know, something about that. But when we hop into the interior, you're gonna notice that it is very simple in here. Really refreshing. I mean, we're talking about a car from 1976 that has a tachometer, and I'm genuinely surprised by that. And you can even see the little homage to the BMW Qs coming from their airplane engineering heritage. So from people that don't know, BMW is well known for making motorcycles and airplane engines, so it's not just cars. And you can see that just by the little homage here with the BMW logo. And I think it has to do a little bit with the altimeter, I think that's what they call for airplanes. And everything in here is manual. I mean, everything down to the rolling of the windows, and even just the being able to see this. I mean, you will never see this ever again. This is something that is purely on classic cars, and for the era, it really just speaks to the quality, being able to turn this around. Everything is adjustable though. I mean, you don't have any electronics here. This is just a very simple door card, but the seats are supremely comfortable. I'm not sure if these are original, but you'll have to let me know, because every classic BMW that I've been in, usually with the leather seats, unfortunately they usually get torn, and it's really refreshing just to see like a fresh set of seats in here. So maybe these have been reupholstered, I don't know. But that's something that we definitely need to investigate a little bit further. And let's pop the hood real quick. See what's going on in there. So the hood is also not a latch. It's like a lever that just locks it down. And you guys will kind of see what I'm talking about here in a second. So now with the engine in this car, it's actually not the original engine. So this is actually an engine out of a 78 3 Series. So this was like the generation after. So it's a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, and the only things that have really been done here, I think it has a little bit larger of a carburetor. The starter has been replaced, as well as the ignition coil, which I believe has been converted to be electric. But I don't know, Nick will have to keep me honest here. And just besides that, I mean, for the most part, the engine is stock. Let's take a look at the other side real quick. From a maintenance standpoint, as we all know, especially with the newer BMWs and stuff, they've gotten so complex, and it's so refreshing to come back here and just see how painfully simple these older BMWs were. Everything is completely accessible. You could totally take this engine out and it wouldn't be no problem, and you could keep this car going for such a long time. And knowing that it is a 4-cylinder instead of like a 6 or an 8 means, you know, less cylinders that you have to worry about, and it makes it for much easier of just like a maintenance cycle, if you would say. But besides that, I think that's all we really need to show there. And in the trunk, it's impressively large. I was not expecting it to be this large, but you could put tons of stuff back here. And it is a 4-speed manual transmission, so you don't get the 5th gear, but for the time, that's what it was. And for the middle of the dash too, you'll notice that this actually isn't original, and this was something that was put in by previous owners. These apparently are kill switches for the brakes and the lights, and it looks like some sort of a preamp. I'm not sure where that's actually going to. And a tape player from what it looks like the 80s that still works, which is pretty remarkable. But as you know, with YouTube copyright, I'm definitely not going to be turning that on today. Sweet. Now if I could just fish this part of the seatbelt out. All right. Man, I'm so excited. And I'll roll the window up just for you guys, so you don't get too much wind noise in here. I'll keep that little window on the side open just so we get some fresh air coming in. The clutch is incredibly easy, and the transmission is really easy to pick up. It's not one of those cars where there's any sort of learning curve. You could even learn how to drive a manual transmission using this car if you really wanted to. The only thing is you do not have any power steering. But since the car is so light, I think it weighs about 2,200 pounds, it really doesn't matter. As long as you get the car rolling a little bit, it's super easy to turn the wheel. Oh man, this is amazing. It's so incredibly simple, but it's so brilliant at the same time. This is what driving's all about, really. Like, this is a hardcore driver's car. Something you can hop in and really enjoy just driving for what it is. There's no assistance or anything like that. You really get to feel like you're one with the car. You feel everything that's going on with it. And God, does it feel nice. And for a 50-year-old car, it feels good. Doesn't feel like I'm really having to work for it either. The car really just drives itself. So incredibly light. It's not a particularly fast car. I would say it's about 100 horsepower, but again, we're talking about something that's so incredibly light. And look at these A-pillars. It's like they're pencil thin, which of course is not good for safety, but in terms of just like visibility, it's all around you. You feel like you're in a fishbowl. There's just so much visibility everywhere. is really, really refreshing. And the transmission is surprisingly good. I'm actually really impressed at how well the transmission feels. And it's weird because the pedals, they almost feel like they protrude out of the ground at like an angle. So it takes a little bit of a learning curve right there just to understand how that all works. But once you figure it out, it is such a blast to drive. And it's amazing just how many people drive by and give thumbs up, and they just are so happy to see this little 2002. I don't know what it is about this car, but it seems like a lot of people like it. Maybe it's nostalgic for like the older generation or something like that, but even as somebody that didn't really grow up in this era of cars, I can really take a moment just to appreciate it for what it is. Because it's really fun. Oh, wow. This thing is really growing on me. I think I definitely want to find a classic BMW one of these days. It's just a shame that these are so incredibly difficult to find. You know, some of them you'll find in a barn, but they're all rusted out, or somebody that spent, you know, their life savings putting it back together and they want an arm and a leg for it. So I feel like this is a really good compromise. Like, the car for the most part is mostly original, of course, except for the engine, but everything else here feels very like it would have if you bought this car in 1976. And I know I'm not pushing it to its absolute limit, but it feels like I could definitely give it a little bit more gas and it would just really appreciate me giving it more gas. These are one of these cars where even if you're going slow, it's still fun. It's very entertaining. I love how just these little cute mirrors, I don't know, it's so cool. I know you can't see my face right now, but I got this big goofy grin on. And I'm just having such a blast. God, this is good. Amazing. Seriously amazing. Alright, so we're approaching the freeway on-ramp, and this will be a good acceleration test. I'm not going to push it to its absolute limits. All I'm really going to do is just bring it up to speed, but it'll kind of give you a good idea of just what it's like to drive and accelerate on the highway in this car. So, should be pretty exciting. Top gear. It really climbs. I'm genuinely impressed. The brakes aren't super confidence inspiring, but the car is so light that it doesn't matter. But God, once you rev it out, wow. And look at this view right out the front. You just see these lines going out to the front of the car. It is so cool. It immediately just tells you that you're in a classic. See, like, look, manual steering. Nope, no power steering, but you wouldn't even know. Taking it up this hill. It's starting to get a better feel for the car. Feels rock solid.